G'day again. This is episode 3 of Trev's Talk, and I'm your host, Trev. Last week in episode 2, I explained how, as a child, I had asked God firstly for power to change things in the world for the better, and secondly, I asked for Him to use me free from my own will to get those changes. Then I talked about my first experience on the rocky hill called the Hill of Apparitions, where I was possessed by the great power which held me in its control while manipulating me into acting out some strange events and giving me waves of pleasure while doing those events. Then I spoke about the Great Spirit giving me knowledge that the water in my possession was bestowed with massive power. There was other knowledge that came, which I did not fully comprehend until years later. I believe now that there are some preconditions that must be met before the actual full empowerment of the water will take place. The main condition is that I am to be involved in some meaningful publicity. So that is why I am reaching out to you in the public right now. I am trying to generate the meaningful publicity required to empower the water. Once empowered, I will call it Medjwater and make it available to the public. My Medjwater does have some power right now, but it is only mild compared to what the Great Spirit has promised. I realised several years ago that if I gave the Medjwater away to people, my supply would run out and not many people would benefit. Knowing that one tiny little drop held massive power, I decided to add a few drops to a larger amount of clean drinking water and test that solution on myself. I had some arthritic type pain, bad enough to make me limp, at where my left big toe joined my foot. I needed a system of use which could be a benefit to multitudes of people. So I decided to take the Medjwater solution in doses like medicine. I took 20 mils per day and asked the Great Spirit power each time to heal my foot, and within a week the foot pain disappeared and I could walk without limping at all. Over a period of some months, I forgot to take a dose of the Medjwater, and each time I forgot, the pain in my foot returned. But when I resumed the daily dose, the pain disappeared again. So I was taught that the Medjwater had some mild healing power and needed to be taken every day. As I mentioned in episode 1, an American movie production group currently making a movie on the Medjugorje phenomenon claims the number of visitors to the little village has climbed to 50 million since the phenomenon first started way back in 1981. Some of the visitors from those 43 years were from Australia, and I would dearly love them to contact me and talk to me about their experiences there. I am hoping to generate enough interest through this Trev's Talk series to attract the attention of mainstream media. If I can get mainstream media to pick up and magnify knowledge of the Medjugorje phenomenon, I believe I will have fulfilled the preconditions required to get the promised full empowerment of the Medjwater, and that would be a huge benefit to many, many people. If you have been a visitor to Medjugorje, surely you can see the importance of contacting me and working with me in any way possible to promote the glorious phenomenon that Medjugorje is. My email is trevstalk@outlook.com. It occurred to me that to do the most good possible, vials of the Medjwater made available to the public could be given out for a fair and reasonable donation to a charity I could start up. That charity could be set up in such a way that donations could be used 100% for charitable purposes. You will be hard-pressed to find any charities, other than mine, that use the full 100% of donated funds for charitable purposes. Other charities use far less due to expenses like rent, staff, and admin. So, back in 2010, I set up the Medjugorje Centre, with my family supplying an office, rent-free, and arranged it to run with all volunteers, making it free of staff costs. Charities the size of the Medjugorje Centre are not required legally to be audited, but I have arranged auditing every year since inception by a qualified CPA. Some people, if not most people, will ask themselves, is this guy making claims of empowered Medjwater honest or a mental case? When I realised this, I arranged for appropriate professionals to give me references attesting to my mental state and my honesty. These documents are available to view by anyone. And some people will ask themselves, does this guy make money out of this charity? I can answer that with an emphatic no, and it's the opposite, in fact. I have recorded proof that my wife and I have used our personal funds to assist the charity in the early days to get it established. And when it became obvious that the charity needed a minibus to do work with Aboriginal kids, I gave the charity an interest-free loan, enabling the purchase of such a vehicle. One last thing I would like to mention regarding credibility is that, due to the huge impact my experiences at Medjugorje made on me, I swapped my money-seeking life before Medjugorje to a life of community service and charitable work after Medjugorje. Since 1990, I spent 20 years serving Vinnies and then 14 years with my Medjugorje Centre, which does a lot with Aboriginal community, and I was recognised with an Order of Australia medal in 2021 for that work. When the COVID pandemic hit here in West Australia, the Medjugorje Centre was doing a lot of charitable work at the Aboriginal school in Middle Swan. I had 24 volunteers working at the school in a variety of projects like a breakfast club, an after-school social cum education club, and a rostered group of people to sit and help backward readers. And because I had the minibus, which I had given the interest-free loan for, I was able to take selected students to in-school and after-school things like horse riding, organised basketball, and even inter-school sports. Because, having the bus, I could bring kids from another local school to our school when their school had no funds for transport. I used our bus for free. The minibus opened up a multitude of incursions and excursions for our kids. The COVID pandemic hit the school in March 2020, and my school volunteers were all pretty much in the elderly group, and I had to withdraw them all from the school for health reasons. But most of the projects that I had running at the school were set up in such a way that the principal of the school was able to take them over and keep them operating as part of the school. For example, instead of operating the breakfast club in the room next to the canteen, the teachers took on the preparation of food and taking it into the classrooms and feeding the kids there. When you think about it, that was a good outcome because it made a better bond between the teachers and the kids. When the COVID pandemic forced me and my volunteers to leave the Aboriginal school, I was put into a position of having free time, which I had not had for years due to my community service work. So because of some peculiar hints I had received in the past, I decided to write a book on my life. I had a lot of stuff to write about because of having two lives, one before Medjugorje and one after Medjugorje, and boy, weren't those two lives different. In the second life, for instance, I told you about my first incredible experience on the rocky Apparition Hill, and next week I will chat to you about my other major experience, which took place on Cross Mountain. That's it for this week. To hear more about fascinating Medjugorje and my experiences there, you need to tune in again next week. Big thanks for tuning in to Trev's Talk. Please click follow and leave a review on Spotify, or click subscribe or leave a comment on YouTube. Your feedback is important to me. If you have feedback, stories, or questions you'd like to share privately, feel free to reach out to me by email at trevstalk@outlook.com. This is Trev, tuning out until next week.